That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, I understand. A lot of people are probably pretty upset with me. I think that people are going to look at this list and say, Mason, you idiot. Team X will never sign a running back. Team Y will never draft Breece Hall. And what I'm saying is, please hear me out, and we can just go back in recent history and we can look at a lot of running backs that the overall dynasty community, they thought they were safe options to invest into. I mean, players like James Robinson, Melvin Gordon last year. I mean, how many mock drafts had the Denver Broncos trading up to get a running back in the top of the second round? How many mock drafts had Travis Etienne going in the first round to the Jacksonville Jaguars? Pretty much zero. Now, of course, I mean, you'll be able to find one mock draft on the internet that had that assumption, but no, most dynasty managers were pretending like those were going to be the starting running backs going forward. I mean, we can go back to 2020 and see this. You had guys like, Marlon Mack and Devin Singletary. Before you had Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss going to those respective situations, they were being valued as they were very stable, young dynasty running backs to build around for the future. Of course, the most popular version of this is Trey Mason back in 2015. This is pretty much the who's going to get Trey Mason video. If y'all remember Todd Gurley going to that situation when people thought Trey Mason was a borderline running back one in Dynasty. So this video, I'm not going to be going over the obvious situations. Now, of course, we've recently talked about running back landing spots in other videos with teams like the Miami Dolphins, the Arizona Cardinals, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Atlanta Falcons, the Houston Texans. But it's the expectation that Eno Benjamin, Myles Gaskin, Keyshawn Vaughn, Mike Davis, and Rex Burkhead, they're going to get replaced this year. I would be wasting your time if we spent really a second more talking about those possibilities. So instead, I'm going to be going over to different NFL offenses that right now have running backs that are currently being valued as if they are starters going forward for their respective teams. And I'm going to be talking about the possibility of those organizations possibly bringing in competition, whether or not that's to have a new starting running back, whether or not that's just to add some target competition. But of course, before we get into it, please go down there, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment letting me know how stupid I am and why Team X isn't going to draft that running back. And I said this in yesterday's video. Don't know if it came true or not. Y'all can go check that right now. But if one of these videos gets 500 likes within the first 24 hours, which is about 10% of the people dropping a like on the video, then we will release our rankings. We will release everything over there on Locals for free for a week. All you have to do is use the promo code 500 likes, no spaces, no capitals. We'll put that in the description. But let's dive into this now, and let's start it off with a situation where I want to admit, I don't even think, admit's the wrong word. I want to preface it by saying I was higher on this running back in 2020 than anybody else. That 2020 draft, we just crushed in the later rounds, but I'll never live up to that 2020 draft. Antonio Gibson. With Antonio Gibson, this was a running back that checks all the boxes we previously talked about. The college target share, the draft capital, the size, the athleticism. He checked every box, and we were taking him everywhere because you had the film grinders, the people on YouTube, the people on their podcast, the people on their dynasty sites that think they can sit down and watch TV and tell you exactly how a player can run between the tackles. They were saying Antonio Gibson wasn't going to be able to be a successful NFL running back at the next level, yada, yada, yada. I have Antonio Gibson everywhere. But if we look at the situation in Washington currently, I think that the dynasty community has gone too far on the opposite end of the spectrum. Let me pull up just Dynasty ADP currently for where you have Antonio Gibson, and he is sitting as, a running back one. He is sitting as a top 12 running back in the month of February. And while I'm not going to lie, I have him in a very similar range in my rankings. I think that based on my conversations with most people over there on Locals, people are a little bit too confident with Antonio Gibson going forward in that, yes, you have no J.D. McKissic sign there for next season. But just because Antonio Gibson projects to be the last guy standing doesn't mean that we are actually going to be looking at him in a light where he's guaranteed to be the Ezekiel Elliott. He's guaranteed to be the Dalvin Cook with his workload. I actually think it's a pretty strong possibility that this team goes out there and invest into the running back position, because if we look at the current investment that this roster has into this position as it stands, they have Antonio Gibson, and that's about it. With the loss of J.D. McKissic, there's going to be a hole on this roster regardless, whether you're talking about the depth with this team, whether you're talking about the potential third down running back, even though I personally believe Antonio Gibson has it in his range of outcomes to potentially step into that third down role. But we don't know if the Washington coaching staff believes that as well, because they have not shown us that they have that belief in Antonio Gibson just yet. So while I think a lot of people are just expecting Antonio Gibson will turn into that Dalvin Cook level running back with his workload, I think there's an outside chance that a Rachaad White lands in Washington, that they go sign Chase Edmonds. I mean, those would be perfectly reasonable running backs, in that the investment that it would take Washington to go and sign or bring in one of those players would be very similar to the investment that they already had into J.D. McKissic. And if this team doesn't believe Antonio Gibson is that true workhorse running back, which I believe he can be, but we haven't seen the coaching staff come out here and show us that with their actions, it's entirely possible they bring in that pass catching option. So please, please, please don't just assume Gibson is a lock going forward. And another running back in that 2020 class that I love, I have him as the Dynasty running back 3, but I will put out the little flare right now, just saying, don't panic when they bring someone else in. It's going to be Deandre Swift with the Detroit Lions. Now with Deandre Swift here, it is entirely possible. If anything, it's probably likely this team goes out there and signs some running back depth. If we're looking at, the entire landscape of what we could have coming to Detroit, I think some very logical players could end up being options like Ronald Jones, Sony Michel, players that would come in and kind of fill that Jamal Williams role from this past year. Jamal Williams still going to be there, but he has 1 year left with that contract. We don't really know what this team's viewing Jamal Williams as going forward. So they are, I don't want to say likely, but it's entirely possible that they are viewing Deandre Swift still as that, third down running back with upside, that third down running back that, can handle a little bit more. And they possibly want an early down grinder, which we've always talked about. I'm personally hoping that this team goes out there, signs Ronald Jones, and then the Dynasty community thinks that they need to lower down Deandre Swift. Remember how funny it was last offseason when people were talking about Deandre Swift going too high in Dynasty drafts, going too high in best ball drafts, because he wasn't going to see every touch out of his backfield. You're not expecting Deandre Swift to see every touch out of his backfield for the millionth time. We've been saying this for years. He's Alvin Kamara. He's Aaron Jones. He's not going to get every touch. He's going to get every target, and he's going to get the touches in the red zone. So if anything, I think that it's possible for the Detroit Lions to bring in a first and second down grinder running back like Sony Michel or Ronald Jones, and I am hoping they do it. So the few leagues where we don't have Deandre Swift, we can go out there and trade for him. Now, a running back that right now, it's interesting to see his dynasty value, because I think the community is actually doing a pretty good job not overreacting to year one. It's going to be Michael Carter. Right now, Michael Carter is valued as a low-end running back 2 in Dynasty, and I am going to be completely fine buying Michael Carter this offseason. However, I do want us to wait. I want us to wait on Michael Carter until after the NFL draft, because if we look at this running back room as well, the Jets have not invested anything alongside Michael Carter. LaMichael P. Ryan's getting paid some more money. LaMichael P. Ryan, Michael Carter, all of these guys are day 3 NFL draft picks. Historically, those are running backs that are operating in a backup type capacity in your team. Now, of course, Michael Carter showed the ability to be more than a backup running back, but still, this is a team that has additional assets in this year's NFL draft. They have money to spend. They have Zach Wilson on that rookie contract. This could be easily a spot that they decide to go, and I hate to say this, but I'm getting those Trey Mason vibes. If you were to have Breece Hall fall to the beginning of the second round, I think it could be entirely possible for the New York Jets to go out there and say, you know what? Let's bring in Breece Hall. Let's give Zach Wilson that 3-down workhorse running back. And in that capacity, Michael Carter would fall from being a low-end running back 2 in Dynasty to then being a running back 4. Pretty much just a primary handcuff running back. So with Carter, it is definitely a concern Now, I am going to be fine drafting Michael Carter in best ball drafts, drafting him in Dynasty, trading for him in Dynasty. However, given the fact that this general manager, this coaching staff may be viewing their running back room a little bit differently than the majority of the Dynasty community, I probably would rather wait so we can dodge the bullets with free agency, with the NFL draft. Because let's say the Jets go through, they take Drake London, they take an offensive lineman, and then at the beginning of the second round, they go defense. All of a sudden, Michael Carter projects to be the starting running back for an offense that's probably improved from last year. Does his Dynasty price increase that much? Or does it probably just maintain where it currently is? I would say that really there's only one drastic move that Michael Carter can have with his exact Dynasty value from where it stands, and that's to go down with the addition of another running back. I would rather wait, let them really show us they believe in Michael Carter, and then pay 10% more to go out there and get him afterwards than have him on our roster as it stands. And a very similar running back, almost in that same exact mold, and we've talked about this previously, is going to be Elijah Mitchell. Now, with Elijah Mitchell, you go over to San Francisco, they have two running backs on the team. They got Trey Sermon. They have Mitchell himself. And with Elijah Mitchell, we've already discussed this. They have clearly shown us that they want Elijah Mitchell to be in a committee. They have not had the incentive to go out there and use him in the receiving game. Keep in mind, this is a running back that was playing alongside Jimmy Garoppolo, a quarterback that really wasn't mobile, so you would expect that his checkdown rate would be higher than average. However, Elijah Mitchell was not really able to command any usage at all in the receiving game, and this should be expected because if we go back to Elijah Mitchell, who played at Louisiana Lafayette, this is a tiny school where you'd imagine if Elijah Mitchell is going to be a dominant player at the NFL level, he would go out there and he would be a dominant receiving running back in college as well. He didn't hit the minimum threshold for his college target share, indicating that he probably doesn't have the receiving game chops. And this is a team that used JaMychal. They used Deebo Samuel a ton at the end of this past season to really solve that running back hole. So you could easily view this as another team that has the possibility of saying, you know what? Elijah Mitchell, we hit on him. But just like the Jacksonville Jaguars did last offseason, when they don't have really any investment at all into that running back rookie that hit, they're quick to turn around and go bring in another option. I'm not saying that you're going to get the 49ers going and drafting Breece Hall in the beginning of the second round. That's impossible. I would be very, very surprised if you get one of those top options like Breece Hall or Kenneth Walker going to San Francisco. But what would be possible if this team goes, you know what? We are a run-first offense. Deebo Samuel is not going to hold up forever like this. If we really want a power running game, let's bring in a complement to Elijah Mitchell. Let's go sign Melvin Gordon. Or let's possibly go and instead bring in Chase Edmonds, a running back that we know can be that receiving option next to Mitchell. So as it stands, Elijah Mitchell is in the same boat as Michael Carter for me. I actually think Elijah Mitchell's a little bit more of appealing of a sell because Trey Lance is going to be vulturing those touchdowns at the goal line, and I really don't have any hope for Elijah Mitchell's receiving game capabilities. But if you like Elijah Mitchell, I would understand why. He was very good his rookie season. But if you were to go out there and try to acquire him, I would probably just wait it out until after the NFL draft. After the NFL draft, he'll be 24 years old. I don't necessarily think that his price point is going to increase that much if this team doesn't bring in another running back this offseason. Maybe you pay a 10% premium, but it's better than trading for him now and risking a 50% loss if this team goes out and signs Melvin Gordon. Now, our next team is going to be the New England Patriots. Very similar here. You have some young running backs that have been impressive that haven't been involved in the receiving game on a team that wants to run the ball over and over and over again. You have Damian Harris, who this is his last season under contract for the New England Patriots. You have Ramondre Stevenson as well. And with Ramondre Stevenson, I loved him last year, remember, mainly because I didn't like Damian Harris as a running back that really, hadn't impressed me up until that point, especially with his lack of involvement in the receiving game, which I know everybody hates me talking about over and over and over again. There are two things that I'm sure that the majority of people wish that I would never mention again on this channel, and that is quarterbacks with rushing upside and running backs in the receiving game. I understand it's overplayed, but it's what translates to fantasy points. So I liked Ramondre Stevenson last offseason, but that's not for me to say his value was nice last offseason. He showed us that he has the talent year one. All of a sudden, we can drastically move him up. Ramondre Stevenson's in the exact same situation this offseason as he was last offseason. He's a day 3 running back that was, impressive in a limited capacity, but by no means all of a sudden locked himself into a starting job going forward. And New England, we have seen this as a team that's willing to go out there and sign some big-time veteran players. Maybe you get Leonard Fournette with the thought in his head that if he goes over to the New England Patriots, maybe that's the next way he can go out there and ring chase. I don't know. It's a possibility. Maybe they bring in Melvin Gordon. Maybe they go out there and draft Rachaad White. That would be a perfect fit here to pair alongside someone like Damien Harris. So Damien Harris, another one of these running backs. I probably will never trade for Damien Harris, but if you were going to do so, I would at least advise wait until after free agency and the NFL draft and then pay a 10% premium to what he currently costs rather than acquiring him now and really risking way too much in my opinion. Okay, now let's go over to our next team. Going to be someone else that I think Leonard Fournette could sign with. We've talked about it a lot. Let's go over to the Buffalo Bills, where you currently have Devin Singletary and Zach Moss. Now, with Zach Moss, of course, he was supposed to be the replacement of Devin Singletary back in 2020. Clearly, Zach Moss wasn't able to hold on to that job, so Devin Singletary is right back with it with one of the best offenses in the NFL. And as we've discussed before, this is a team that really is probably ready to push all its chips in the middle. And when you see these organizations that are Super Bowl contenders, the last piece a lot of them want is that running back position, right or wrong. But usually what happens is once they are right there on that edge and they go, we have a well-rounded roster overall, let's go and get our running back. You could see this with the Kansas City Chiefs in 2020 taking Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the first round. And also we saw that Leonard Fournette, really is trying to play for a Super Bowl contender based on his actions to go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the first place and then take a pretty steep discount to stay there the second year after they win the Super Bowl. And the second Brady retires, he's saying, you know what, I'm probably going to be leaving Tampa. I think it would make sense for a player like Leonard Fournette to go over to Buffalo. For looking at the Buffalo Bills right now, Devin Singletary, I believe, actually, I don't want to say third round draft pick before I pull this up. I am almost certain in 2019, he was that third round draft pick. Yes, at the 310 in 2019. Zach Moss, definitely that third round draft pick in 2020. So I think that there is that outside chance that they decide to bring in that future down running back. It's not like they're paying a Kenyon Drake $11 million. Now going over to our next team, we are going to have the Philadelphia Eagles. With Philly, they have an absurd amount of first round picks. They currently are sitting with Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell, but they're missing out on Boston Scott. They're missing out on Jordan Howard as well this upcoming season. And this is a coaching staff that really didn't show us that they have complete faith in Miles Sanders this past year with the Miles Sanders workload. This is a coaching staff that wasn't there at the time they drafted Miles Sanders. And I have been a Miles Sanders fanboy. Y'all know his rookie season, I loved me some Miles Sanders, and I wasn't saying to sell high after his value went up to being a first-round startup pick in 2020. I was just kind of riding that high saying, I told you so, I told you so, I told you so with Miles Sanders. Then it crashed and burned. Trust me, I've loved me some Miles Sanders back in the day, and we've gotten that wrong. But if we are going to be objective about this, the coaching staff has no ties to Miles Sanders coming near the end of that rookie contract, and they have the possibility of taking a Breece Hall at the back end of the first. They have 3 first-round picks. They have those assets later on in the draft as well. They're paying their quarterback position absolutely nothing with Carson Wentz off the book and with Jalen Hurts on that rookie deal. Very cheap rookie contract as well, being drafted in the second round. So I think this is another team that you could see them go out there and invest in the running back position and move on from Miles Sanders, despite, trust me, I love me some Sanders. And our last offense is going to be one that I'm expecting to bring in depth. I'm saying it's almost certain they're going to bring someone in. They're going to re-sign someone. Will be the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, with the Chiefs, I don't think they have the resources to go out there and take someone like Breece Hall. I don't think they have the resources to go and pay a Leonard Fournette. However, if you're looking at the depth chart, after Clyde Edwards-Helaire right now, it's Brendan Knox. So please don't be surprised. If you're a Clyde Edwards-Helaire owner, they are going to sign Sony Michel. They are going to sign Ronald Jones. They are going to sign Chase Edmonds. They are going to bring back Jerick McKinnon. They're going to bring in one of these running backs because, A, they haven't shown us that they trust Clyde Edwards-Helaire as a feature down running back just yet. And B, even if they did trust Clyde Edwards-Helaire as a feature down running back, Are you telling me that they're going to go in with their second running back this season being Brandon Knox? So just don't be surprised when the Kansas City Chiefs sign someone, because I can guarantee you they're bringing in a couple depth running backs. And I think that's all I got for this video. Of course, thank you so much for being a part of the flock and supporting the channel. Really hope y'all enjoyed this. Go down there, drop that like. If this video hits 500 likes within the first 24 hours, I'll throw up that promo on locals. Just call it 500 likes, no spaces, no capitalization, and you'll get a free week on locals with everybody else in the flock. If not, there's always free content on there as is. But yeah, thank you again. Hope you have a great day, and hope we get to see you out with the live stream sometime soon.